One really cool way to enhance a portrait is to make a person like this jump out of the frame by using a variety of different selection techniques and layer styles and different layer techniques. So I'm going to show you how to do all of that now using this start image, which you'll find on the Photo Plus video disk. It's called framestart.jpg. So open that up in Elements and I'll take you through the steps one by one. So the first thing we need to do is just duplicate this main layer by dragging it to the Create New Layer icon, and there we have a copy. And on the copied layer we're going to select the girl. So I'm going to use this tool here, which is the Quick Selection tool. You can get that by pressing A and then Control plus just to zoom in to get a better look. If I hold the space bar down, I can then move around with the hand tool and then let go to get my selection tool again. So the first thing to do is make sure it's on Add to Selection, which is this little icon on the top left, and then just click and spray to start adding the girl to the selection. You can let go of the mouse, then click again to add other bits to the selection. Don't worry if it's not perfect to start with, we're going to fine tune it in just a tick, but get the main girl selected first of all just by clicking and dragging on the various colours and textures. You might find this part of the leg here is difficult with shadow. Just click once to add that bit there and that bit there. Again, we'll fix the problems later, and then click to select the rest of her. We're only really interested down to here. We're not going to select these bits because they're behind this frame. Now to modify the selection, we can pop up to the options bar again and choose the subtract from selection option and Control plus to zoom in a little bit more, and then that just takes things away from the selection. If we just click here, for example, and click again, it's going to find the problem areas a little bit more easily now, or just click and spray a little bit close to the edge and you can then gently tighten it up like so. So that's not too bad. And then we need to make sure we've got this bit here just sorted out. You can scale the brush size down as well by clicking here and making it much smaller, which helps you get in amongst the difficult bits like this bit of blue there. That's not too bad. One more click should do the trick. There we go. And again here and just in there, just about should be able to get it. One more click. There we go. Okay, so that's not too bad. We've got to make sure our head is selected, so again back to the Add to Selection, click to spray, and it's not too important how small the brush size is really, because it does tend to work out logically which areas you want to keep. You want to click a little bit more on the hair, just to add a wee bit more of the hairline to the selection. Okay, I'm just going to hit spacebar and pan down just to make sure I've not missed any bits, like that little bit in there. Go to minus, click to select it, and that should sort it out quite quickly. Another click there should add the other bits to the selection, and then go down again, and there's one bit just behind the tools palette here which I need to click to remove from the selection. Just a few sprays there should just take us up to the edge of the leg. Okay, so that's the girl selected. Control minus to zoom out to see her like so. And we're just going to refine the selection, because once we start to remove the background and you'll see her hand against white, there could be a hint of blue just clinging around the edge. So if you click on refine edge, you can then get this window open, and if you take this in a little bit to about -10, that should tighten the selection in a little bit. Let's just go to default for the moment. You'll see it's on 0, so if I just drag it to -10 or maybe 13, actually just for safety let's go to -18, and that just eats into the edge there a little bit and stops us from getting any of that blue in the selection. Keep feather on 1 for a slightly soft edge and leave everything else as it is. Click OK to refine the selection. And once you're happy with the selection, then what we're going to do is float it onto a new layer by pressing Control and J, and you can see there she's appearing on a new layer in the layers palette. Let's just turn the other layers off and you can see the part of the shot that's going to be jumping out of the frame. Turn these layers back on and we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, we've made our selection. Now for the fun bit. Grab the rectangular marquee from the tools palette and click and draw a frame for the girl to jump out of. We're basically defining the area that she's going to leave behind her with this little selection here. So something like that should do. You've got a bit of hair and hand poking out the edge. Position it so that her eyes are kind of in the center of the frame, like so, and a little bit of legs left down here so it can actually overlap the edge of the frame. And then inverse that selection by going to select, inverse, or shift control and I, and then what we'll do is click here and create a solid layer of color. Choose white by just clicking at the top here and click OK, and then that goes below the layer 1 that we created with the girl on her own, and she's now jumping out of the frame. Okay, let me just Control plus to zoom in a little bit so we can see the girl more clearly. And now we're going to go to the effects palette by clicking here, and you can see we've got effects there like so. Go to layer styles, and then from the drop menu here choose inner shadows, And to find the one you want, just let the mouse hover over it. It'll say low. That's fine. Drag that onto the white solid color fill that we created earlier, and that gives you a nice inner shadow effect, which makes the frame kind of stand out in a three-dimensional way. So that's quite cool and quite easy to use. Now you'll notice there's an effects icon just down here. If we click on that, we get style settings, and we can tweak them and create new effects. And what we're going to do is add a stroke to create the inner border of the frame. So click here, and as I drag, you can see that we're creating our frame like so. It's a little bit red, it doesn't really go with the rest of the shot, though it might actually match the colours of her clothing, but we're going to go for a traditional slightly off-white colour. So I'm just going to click on the colour that I want, slightly less than pure white, maybe a hint of colour to it, a little bit of pink maybe. Click OK, and that just helps it stand out from the background image a little bit. And then click OK again to apply the changes. Hit Tab to get rid of the floating windows, and you can see the 3D frame effect there quite clearly now. Okay, what we'll do now is create a shadow, and to do that I'm going to click on the girls layer and then control click to select her, and then create a new layer by clicking here on the create new layers icon, and then we'll edit fill that with a nice black selection. So set use contents to black, click OK, and there's the selection. Control D to deselect and drag it below the woman like so. Now we're going to blur that by going to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and we'll use a value of, let's just click around the edge here so we can see the effect. Yeah, 23 pixels is fine, gives us a nice blurred edge. Click OK, and we can then use the move tool by pressing V, or you can get it from the floating window, it's up in the tools palette, but you can then drag the shadow just down a little bit like so, so it's kind of matching the effect that we've got with our drop shadow on the frame. And then we can also reduce the opacity of that to make it more subtle, so just click and drag to take it down like so, and there's the shadow just coming over the edge of the frame. Now bits of that shadow don't actually need to exist, the bits that are inside the layer, so what we need to do is to erase those using the erase tool. So to get the tools palette up again, let's go to Windows, Tools, there it is, there's the erase tool, just select that, and then use a nice large brush and just get rid of the bits that fall inside the frame, because she wouldn't be casting a shadow on the very far background, just on the edge of the frame itself, like so. So a quick spray around the inner bits of the image is enough to get rid of the unwanted shadow, and then that is pretty much the finished effect. So if I hit Tab again, get rid of the floating windows, click here to close the palette bin, there is our finished 3D jumping out of a frame effect. And as a finishing touch, target layer 1, use a soft edged eraser just to get rid of any bits of blue that show up from the original background photo, just to tidy up the hairline a little bit. And there we go.